Hello and welcome to the Pink Pineapple Podcast, where we peel back femtech and take a bite out of more than just the juicy bits.
I'm Claudia, and I'm Emma's partner in Pineapple for this adventure.
And I'm Emma. Together, we're exploring women's health across the full timeline, from first periods to menopause and everything in between.
Each week, we'll dive into the stories, science, and software shaping the future of women's health, from hormones to hardware, fertility to femtech founders.
Think of us as your slightly nosy best friends who just happen to be doctors with a healthy curiosity for innovation.
We'll be chatting to clinicians, creators, and change makers, and yes, asking the questions you actually want answered.
So whether you're out for a walk, cooking dinner, or hiding from your to-do list, join us as we get curious, clinical, and occasionally controversial.
This is the Pink Pineapple Podcast,
where women's health meets what's next. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pink Pineapple Podcast. And today we are delighted to introduce Dr. Chiara Board. She is the founder of P Happi, and she has a PhD in synthetic biology. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be on this. This is my first podcast, so let's see how it goes.
Amazing. Thank you for coming and kind of spending your first podcast experience with us. And Claudia, who have you got? It's not their first podcast.
No. Here's my lovely pineapple of the day. Today, she's wrapped in toilet paper. And this, for those of us that know, if you know, you know, is his nitrofurantoin. And I feel this kind of sets the scene for today's talk because we are going to be touching on urinary tract infections.
We are, amongst other things. So I'm really excited to find out more about P Happi, Chiara. So for our listeners that haven't come across you and your products before, can you explain to us in a nutshell what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so really happy to be here. Can quickly tell you. So P Happi is a biotech company in the women's health space. I have a PhD from Imperial College. I'm originally a scientist, but I suffered a lot from recurring UTIs and was really frustrated with my patient journey and the lack of innovation in the space. I really wanted to bring some innovation into the intimate health space. And so P Happi is science-backed. It's a non-antibiotic solution for women who are prone to intimate discomfort, microbiome problems, which then can lead to recurrent UTIs or recurring intimate infections, which can be super annoying. We've developed a microbiome-protective serum that's called P Happi. I have it here as well, that uses a natural bacterium that can help to protect against disruptive bacteria that make their way into the intimate area and the urinary tract. So protects from these disruptive bacteria while leaving the good vaginal or urovaginal bacteria untouched. And it's a completely new way that we've brought to market for women to protect the intimate area, and it's topically applied. So it's an intimate serum, and we can go more into detail. And it's now on the market, which is exciting after years and years of development.
Well done. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, Chiara, let's start with the basics. What is the vaginal microbiome?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the vaginal microbiome is, mostly in that case, the bacteria that live in your intimate area or that live in your vagina. And ideally, they're lactobacilli bacteria. The good one that is associated to health is Lactobacillus crispatus, that is well known to do that. And they're kind of your natural defense system in your intimate area. And I think often the gut microbiome has received a lot of attention, but obviously the women also have vaginal microbiome, which is really important to protect. And these are good bacteria that live in your vagina. They colonize it so that there's no space for bad bacteria in a way to come, and they produce lactic acid that basically reduces your pH and creates this environment that's not really friendly for other bacteria to invade.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nice summary, isn't it, for our listeners of what the microbiome is, the vaginal microbiome. I feel it's something that seems to be getting a lot more attention recently. It's taken some time, like you say, the gut microbiome seems to be something that has been, there's lots of books out at the moment about the gut microbiome. There's lots of people on Instagram. There's lots of people on podcasts talking about the gut microbiome, but the vaginal microbiome has taken its time to kind of come to the surface and be the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
What are signs for women that the vaginal microbiome might be kind of a bit out of balance? What kind of things would they expect to see themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think notice changes are definitely like discharge or irritation, dryness potentially in some sort of way as well, occurring infections. So, because the microbiome, the vaginal microbiome or the urovaginal microbiome, we often kind of connected in a way together because they're so interlinked as well, but they help prevent, against obviously like UTIs or bacterial vaginosis or thrush. So if your microbiome is kind of disrupted, which is called dysbiosis as well, it just increases the risk of infections, irritation, recurrence. So then you often get, if you notice like more discharge, smelly discharge, just more irritation, discomfort, more UTIs, then that's often a sign that something is not good down there. It's out of balance.
Yeah. And when it comes to products, because we're both GPs and we were very much taught that nothing should go down there other than warm water. There's even arguments about should you use soap, should you not use soap, should be fragrance, should be unfragranced,
Yeah.
just warm water, and so on and so forth. And there are lots of intimate hygiene products out there, and we're always taught to say, no, 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 don't use these. They're not good. They disrupt the vaginal microbiome. So what's different about P Happi and how does it work?
Yeah, I think that is generally also right. We always say, warm water is a good way because the vagina is self-cleaning. So, and I think a lot of products that are out there, and I think it can be really confusing because a lot of like mixed messages of people trying to sell you lots of stuff, but the vagina itself is like self-cleaning, and you don't really need anything. And a lot of the products, they just mask, certain, I don't know, like certain symptoms or smells or in terms of like fragrances and stuff. But yeah, how P Happy is really different is that it works in balance, like with your microbiome. So it's microbiome friendly. It really just, it's not, our organism is a protective organism. So we're not introducing really a new organism into the intimate area. It's not colonizing it. It's just protecting basically what's already there, what's beneficial. So yeah, so that's how it's different, that it's really like microbiome friendly. It protects, the good bacteria that are there, and it stops any incoming bacteria. So it's a more targeted approach, and it's also like a local approach. So a lot of these things, like, I guess, either have like, I don't know, lubricants or something that you topically apply. So ours obviously has this like microbiome support, which they often don't have. Or you have probiotics, which you take orally, but a lot of the good bacteria actually don't even make it to the vagina. And so obviously our product you also apply topically, so directly where it's needed. And so it's not oral.
And this organism, it's one that's naturally there anyway, and you're almost topping up, or is it a different organism that works in symbiosis and is beneficial?
Yeah, exactly. It's more the latter. So it's basically a natural occurring bacterium that's out of nature, like it lives in nature, and it's known as a natural balancer in a way in nature. So it just keeps all the bad bacteria in check. The organism is called Delavibrio for everyone who's really scientifically interested. You can Google it. And yeah, they have decades of research on it. So it's basically, we always say it's a bit like a Pac-Man. So it's a good bacterium, a good natural bacterium as well, but it's not another probiotic. It's a good bacterium that basically takes away all the harmful stuff and leaves the good one untouched.
Yeah, it's very cool. And sorry, Emma, I keep jumping in, but I'm really interested. I just want to know. So how do you use it? I'm just jumping ahead of all the crib sheet that we've
Yeah.
done, but I'm really interested. So how do you use it? Is it like a daily thing, or
Yeah.
is it symptom based? Is it for everyone?
Yeah, no. So basically, I mean, it's mostly for women who have, a disruptive microbiome or who are worried that they might get a disruptive microbiome because they have, I don't know, lots of stress or they just took antibiotics or something. But yeah, we generally say, apply it on a regular basis. Ideally, you apply it daily in the morning and in the evening, and just make it part of your like routine, like you brush your teeth or something. Just apply it in your intimate area, and it's very easy and hassle-free to apply. So it's not a big thing. It might take you a second to just put it on, and it basically just acts as a barrier, as a protective barrier, during the day to protect you from any disruptive bacteria. And they obviously can always come in because mostly these, UTIs or when your vaginal microbiome is disrupted, it comes externally. So it comes from your sexual partner, or you have bowel bacteria that transfer, which can, happen every day. Obviously, you go to the loo, so bacteria can easily transfer. And a lot of UTIs are caused by E. coli bacteria, bowel bacteria that just naturally transfer because we obviously don't have any external genitalia like, balls that would stop that transfer. And we have a very short urinary tract. So bacteria can really easily get in. So yeah, we generally say, apply it on a daily basis. It's here. This is the one that's online. Sorry, it's a bit damaged because my bag all the time. I'm carrying it around. And women apply it to the vulva and to the perineum, so externally to the intimate area, and then it protects from any disruptive bacteria.
Fab. And one last question, Emma, and I'm letting you speak. I
Just
want to ask.
say something.
Want to ask about side effects. Like, are there any side effects that you've noticed? Like, do some people react to it? Do you get any itching or anything like that you've noticed?
No, I mean, the formulation is super. So what is really nice so we have a lot of menopausal customers and perimenopausal customers, for example, because I think what is really nice that the formulation itself is like super soothing and creates also this like moisturization feel, like really long lasting kind of comfort and soothing feel. And it's very easily applied, it spreads really nicely as well. So it's not like you have to rub it in a way. So that it is kind of irritating because obviously the skin is very delicate there. And especially if you suffer a lot from dryness or, have a lot of infections, you're obviously, very conscious of what you apply down there. So I think that is really nice about it. And then obviously the organism itself, it's a very minimal formula in a way. And then the organism itself, it's very friendly as well. But yeah, we always say to women, obviously, apply it, see if I don't know, if you feel it's not right for you, then obviously, stop using it. But so far we had really amazing feedback from, using it and seeing life-changing results. So that's amazing.
So it'd be probably helpful as well, Chiara, just for some of our
Yeah.
listeners. I know you mentioned that you've got a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal patients. With
Yeah.
regards to kind of those hormonal changes throughout a woman's life, do they have an impact on the microbiome?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously women go through different life stages in a way. And sadly, we're always kind of prone, getting UTIs or having disrupted vaginal microbiomes. I mean, obviously in puberty, when your hormone levels rise, you have your like estrogen. It has the biggest impact on the lactobacilli. So, they support the lactobacilli, they support your microbiome. Then obviously during pregnancy as well, that can be quite supportive. And then postpartum, a lot of women experience issues because obviously estrogen levels drop quite dramatically, quite quickly. So a lot of women, which I had as well, maybe oversharing now, but you have postnatal dryness. I guess it was my first time where I really properly experienced dryness and what that means and how uncomfortable it can be. You can be also more prone there to irritation and everything. And obviously there's also a lot of trauma, I mean, generally also down there. And then during menopause as well, obviously hormone levels again, like drop. You have less, the lactobacilli feed kind of on the hormones, on the estrogen. And the skin is thinner and more irritated. Generally also, your microbiome is less strong. So that's why I think, we have a lot of women. I think our core customer group, I mean, it's obviously women across all life stages, but towards when you're already a bit older and you're going through perimenopause or menopause, because you have these hormonal changes there, you're more likely, sadly, to suffer from these recurring infections. And then very often as well, another peak period is when you're younger and you have lots of different sexual partners and you just have a lot of disruption, down there in a way.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful, I think, for people to understand what is causing some of
Yeah.
this dryness and changes down below.
Yeah, but it's really a dynamic system, kind of like changes, and it obviously changes with your routines, with what you eat, with your sexual partners. It's sadly, I mean, obviously it is, so you have to take care of it in a way.
Yeah, and it's an area, isn't it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still a very under-researched area when we
Yeah.
consider it, in the context, as you said before, about the gut microbiome, where it seems like there's a lot more investment and research that has been done.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we've not given the vaginal microbiome that same kind of attention and injection of cash into research as well?
I guess because the vaginal microbiome affects more women, right? Sadly not too many men. But yeah, I think, I think historically, I mean, I think microbiome research generally, like good microbiome research, I think is quite expensive because obviously, sequencing, and if you want to know more about the details and your composition of your microbiome, I think from a medical point of view, I think it's expensive and it's a very personalized diagnostic, way of understanding it. So I think the research is not cheap. They're not quick tests you can do to understand it. And because it's a dynamic system, I think in order to fully maybe understand it is, you need to do a lot of these expensive tests to maybe get an idea how it shifts, during menstruation or during different life stages or during different, I don't know, periods you have in your life. So I think I think that's one. I think a second one is that, that I think it has, it obviously affects more women. And I think historically, sadly, I think a lot of women, same with UTIs, you just expect women to kind of manage these conditions. And I think what is also crazy is I've taken so many antibiotics, and I was even put on prophylactic antibiotics, which is, standard care. You just do that. And you just you literally get prescribed 6 months of antibiotics, which you take every day. Or then they say you also to take it, every time you have sex. And this is just, it's just seen, it's absolute madness.
Often this one, was it not nitrofurantoin? Was it not yellow? Did it not also stain your pee and make things smell weird?
Yeah.
Our antibiotic of choice.
Yeah. And they changed that because trimethoprim, the resistance is there already super high. It's over 30%. And so, I think, and obviously the antibiotic industry, it's a big industry. Antibiotics are cheap, as well. And so I think women are just expected to kind of manage it. And I think now, there's more research, which is great. And, women are more vocal, I think, about the situations. And I think that's really important. And I think that's driving it. And I guess most of the research, or a lot of the research, obviously not all, Jacques Ravel is a man, but is also driven by women trying to bring innovation into the space, or better diagnostics or microbiome tests and things like that, which is great. Yay!
Yeah. And speaking of research, that kind of brings us nicely on to thinking about the research that's gone behind P Happi. So you're a scientist, you're a PhD by background. So how has research featured in the way that you've produced P Happi?
Yeah, I guess, it has, I think, really, impacted what I wanted to build. I wanted to have something which is really science-backed. Science-backed is also a wild claim because everyone uses this now on social media, but this is probably science-backed. But it was really important for me to have something that actually works and to have the science to back it up. And we have our own lab. We produce the ingredient. We had to, we really developed this from scratch because obviously I had all these horrific experiences, and I just thought, I can't always blame everyone for not doing something about this. I'm not trying to do something about this. And if I have the scientific background, let me try to bring some innovation into the space. And so this is really how it all started after my PhD. But I really started this from scratch and raised funding, which wasn't easy to raise. And we spent years and years on just even trying to figure out how could we bring this product to market? How can we manufacture this? This is not something where you can just buy this Delavibrio from the shelf. We had to set up, that's why we have our own lab. We had to find a way of producing it. And now we're still working on the R&D of how can we make the product even better and how can we scale the production? Because now we're selling more and more product, which is amazing. Also still a small company. So now we also need to continue thinking about how can we produce it at larger and larger and larger scale. And so that element kind of never stops. But yeah, research has been always really important. And it never, it never ends and always requires a lot of investment. And we've also done studies, and obviously studies are expensive, but we're trying to do that more and more as well. So luckily got some grant funding to do a 6-month study, and hopefully we can publish these results really soon because they're amazing. And then now we're a part of another kind of femtech accelerator from the NHS, and hopefully we can do a pilot for commissioning to explore if we can somehow work together with the NHS to make the product even wider available to more women. Because what was important for me as well is that it's a solution that works, but that is also easily accessible for women, because we really wanted to empower women to be back in control and feel confident and not just feel so dependent as well on, someone else helping them or having to explain themselves or not being taken seriously and things like that.
It's a great answer, and I've got so many questions to ask you as a result of that response. So I think, first of all, I think it's really inspirational that you took your own experience and you decided that you wanted to make an impact. I think there's lots of people who probably have quite a bad experience or, a health issue, and they've not got the background to be able to make that change. But you've obviously taken your experience, your academic experience, and you've put it to something And like you say, it's flying off the shelf. One of the issues you've got is actually meeting the supply and demand, which is what a wonderful problem to have. I
Yeah.
think lots of founders and lots of companies would love that to be their main problem. I
Yeah, it's also
suppose.
really sad though.
Yes, yeah. I suppose. I
It's
suppose.
working hard. It works.
I suppose one of the other things I'd like to touch on as well is you've mentioned about the NHS and about the
Mm.
potential for commissioning. So it'd be interesting to know, where do you see this fitting in a patient's journey? So, for example, if a woman came to see me, would you be expecting this to be prescribed as a first line? Would you be expecting this to be prescribed if someone has had multiple UTIs? And would you be expecting a GP to prescribe it? Or are you seeing this more in a secondary care setting, so in a hospital outpatient clinic by a urologist or a urogynecologist? So it'd be just interesting, I think, for maybe some of the, particularly the clinicians that are listening, where would this fit into that jigsaw?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I guess we need to show to the NHS where the biggest cost saving would be.
Well, there's always that, isn't there? Yes, unfortunately, the numbers have to add up.
I mean, this is obviously not a medical product. And I think, as we discussed, women's health is very complex in a way. So I also don't think there's one solution, fits it all. If someone is dry, they should also try, estrogen, maybe if they want to take that, and, lubrication. And obviously, if they have an active infection, they need to be properly tested and prescribed what antibiotics they need for what time. So I think it starts with the diagnosis first, and then, but I see P Happi more as part of an overall solution. So if someone has recurring issues and has a disruptive microbiome, which they often have, obviously that's why they have recurring, problems. And obviously the more antibiotics you take and the more you try to fix the situation, the worse it often gets, sadly, because it's like this painful full cycle. But what I can see it is, well, obviously in primary care, because people like GPs, you see patients more on a regular basis. Sadly, not a lot of women even make it to secondary care. So I think primary care could be where we could really hopefully make a difference. So if you see someone multiple times because they have recurrent problems, then I think it might be good to try P Happi alongside, I mean, only or alongside other, things you want them to try, and see if that helps them and supports them on that journey. And then hopefully they see you, less over time. They might need to use fewer antibiotics and things like that. And just so that would be something that we will be testing. Secondary care, obviously, you have very, more extreme and also recurring cases. So I think that could fit as well. Sadly, I don't think a lot of women get even to secondary care. And often then it gets also separated out into gynecology or urology, which is, I think, also generally a problem, because ideally people would see urogynecologists in a way that can look at everything kind of together, and ideally also like a pelvic floor therapist or something. But yeah, I think initially maybe more in primary care, because you have this regular point of contact with the GP there, which I think is good. And I think also there's more movement towards now with the NHS plan, women's health, which is great, and doing something around antimicrobial resistance. And I think also around more community care and self-care, where I think P Happi really, really nicely fits in, because women can easily access it and stuff. But I think we need to understand how it would be funded potentially as well through the system. If it's like something initially regionally we would do and try and test and see how it works via locally enhanced service or something. So this is something we have to figure out, which sadly takes some time, but hopefully down the line, more women can therefore access it. Sorry, that wasn't super specific answer.
No,
But I think it was more primary care initially. But we have obviously a lot of urologists or gynecologists in our network, a pelvic floor therapist who are reaching out, and we share with them information as well. So tomorrow you're speaking to a big network there and giving webinars and trying to educate clinicians. So if anyone is interested, they can always reach out and we can have a chat.
I think your answer, Chiara, to be honest, just illustrates how difficult it is to plan out, that kind of commissioning with the NHS, the procurement process. It's not an easy thing to try and sell to the NHS. And I think that there will be people that are listening to this podcast who have navigated that journey and probably banged their head against the wall a few times. because it's notoriously difficult because there are fragmented services, things, don't necessarily flow through like conversations. There are a lot of points in that process where there are, long waits, or you're waiting to hear back from multiple stakeholders. So I
Yeah.
think, the fact that you've kind of illustrated that in your answer really is helpful.
Yeah, and maybe it could be even like, given to women, I think that would be ideal as well, who are on the wait list to see a urologist or gynecologist, and just being contacted and say, hey, this is a new solution. Do you want to try it in the meantime while you wait? Because a lot of women wait for 18 weeks or something to be seen, even. So, but yeah, you guys know this best. So I'm not the expert here, but yeah, but it can be a difficult overall process to navigate also in different regions and areas as well.
Definitely. And I think it's fantastic that you've got it now in stores, it's available over the counter. That mustn't have been an easy thing to accomplish. How did you find that process?
I'm obviously not an e-com expert, so we have some people on the team who have been really helpful to even set up a Shopify account. I guess it's my scientific nature here, but no, I think the first people who bought our product were women who were part of our studies. And then obviously the study, came to an end, and there was no product anymore. And we have been really, really grateful for their support during this journey, because they have been kind of part of the development of the product. But yeah, I think one challenge is definitely that, I think, as we said earlier before we touched upon, was that a lot of, there's a lot of noise out there around menopause and probiotics and the microbiome. And I think there's a lot of, sadly, products, which I think is just like another marketing thing, and it's all the same ingredients. It's another cranberry product, and it's another demonized, and I think that is quite frustrating, maybe from a scientific point of view, because it's being marketed as innovative or science backed, and you're just like, oh, it's not. It's just like some ingredient claims. They're not the studies. This is just people trying to obviously be helpful and supportive, but it's not really innovation. And I think that part is quite hard, because I think for the customer or for the women out there, it's not always easy to understand, maybe. And there are a lot of claims out there. So I think that is a frustrating part to navigate, to highlight, no, this is really science backed, or, this is really different. This is not another probiotic, or it's not another cranberry product, or it's not just another lubricant. So yeah, so I think getting the message across and explaining it, I think that is definitely a challenge, I would say. Yeah, I think that's the main one that comes to my mind now, which is frustrating, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. I wanted to ask you actually about your background, because it's in bioengineering, is that right?
Yeah, it was a mix of different things. I was at the Department of Chemical Engineering, where it's kind of synthetic biology, because I had different supervisors. Yeah, as Imperial.
And were there many women on that course? Were you one of a few, or were there quite a few there?
No, generally, I don't think there were a lot of women. The more you get into, I guess, biology, and more medical related fields or applications, you have more women, which is great. I think you have fewer women when it comes to more higher up, like senior related positions. I think which Imperial is also trying to improve. I think there are fewer, female professors than there are male professors. And I think throughout my time as a scientist, because I did other fields before, yeah, I think there are generally, sadly, not so many women. I think in my undergrad, I think we were 8 of 80 or something, and a few
Yeah.
left. So it can be quite, not, I don't want to say isolating, but I think other people have more fun study experiences, I would say.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Yeah, so 10%, I guess, of the cohort. Is there anything you think that could be done? Like, what could be done to get more women into these fields so that they can bring all that they've learned and all these experiences to products like you have?
Yeah, I think having role models, is important. I think, for example, you guys are doing podcasts or showcasing different things people can also maybe do out of, studying or from studying science. I'm trying to do often, I'm going to the Royal Society to do something for PhD students. I'm trying to, for example, go to events from Imperial to talk about my studies and what I'm doing now, which I think is important. Obviously, it takes a lot of time, but I think it's important to do, to hopefully, I don't know, I don't know if I can say inspire, but, maybe encourage the next generation or motivate others. And I think also, while I was at Imperial, I founded this charity, Women in STEM charity, which I think where we also wanted to really highlight what are the different areas you can go into when you study science. It doesn't mean you're stuck forever for the whole life in the lab or something. You can do lots of other things afterwards as well. And I think that's important to highlight maybe as well. It's not just like once you study science, you will be forever in the lab. I mean, some people love research and want to do that, but you don't have to, you don't have to go down the academic route. You can maybe start your own company and you can do literally everything. I mean, you can go into finance as well if you want, or do a law conversion course and go into law. Like you can do whatever you want, go into consulting, or maybe don't become a doctor anymore. I think that might be a too long journey afterwards. But yeah, I think there's so many options. And so I think it's important to kind of highlight those,
That's great. I think you are a super inspiration, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely concur with that. Definitely. 100%.
Well, let's grow P Happi more, and then, hopefully help more women, and then I'm fine with that. I feel there's still so much to do. I don't know. I started the company like 6 years ago, and I still feel we've come so far, but I still feel like there's still so much to do. So anyway,
I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? I think when you're very impact driven or very mission focused, there's always something to do. I think, when you've got that kind of hunger inside you, the to-do list, it's always got things left on that you need to tick off. And I think that's good, because I think it drives things forward.
Yeah, it drives you forward or it drives you mad. Like, lots of else to do.
So, Chiara, thank you so much for coming on today. We've absolutely loved having you on. For our listeners who would like to learn more about P Happi, where can they find out the information? And for our listeners that will have been inspired by you, I am 100% positive on that. Where can they find out more about you?
I think probably the easiest way is just to go to our website so you can find more out about our product. I think we have a newsletter as well. Now we have a monthly newsletter actually, so you can get some information, every month in your inbox, or we give you some updates, or we share some knowledge. We have like a hub as well, like blog post, which we've written together with actually clinicians. So we interview different clinicians and they give us their feedback, which is really nice. It's still all in written format, or we also have downloads as well if people want to learn about the different microbiome tests. If they want to get some insights what microbiome tests to do, download for clinicians that we've been in touch with that we think are great. So if you're looking for someone who, is keen to help you with your UTIs or your intimate problems, and you want someone who's understanding and, passionate, and then you can find them there as well, which might be helpful. And then, social media. I'm not a big social media person, but you're obviously on Instagram and TikTok. So please get in touch. You can also reach out to me via LinkedIn. And thanks to you two for also making me feel so comfortable. During my first podcast recording, I was always like, oh no, I don't want to go on a podcast. It's like decline everything. I'm like, oh no. But I thought, okay, no, I can't keep on doing that. It's the new year. I need to try something different.
I think you've done super. I think it's been brilliant. And we are honored to have had you on the podcast. And we're super excited to see where P Happi goes. And we'll be rooting for you as we go along as well.
Thank you so much for your time. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for being here. We love having you with us on this journey through women's health and innovation.
Follow us on Instagram at the Pink Pineapple Podcast for clips, conversations, and the latest in women's health and femtech.
We'll see you next week. Same pineapple, new topic. Everything we talk about on the Pink Pineapple Podcast is here to inform and inspire, but it's not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you're worried about your health, please reach out to your GP or healthcare provider.